Hey all, so this is another off-season war, and I'm going to say up front, I am hopefully on the downswing of COVID today. Gonna go ahead and knock on wood here. That's why I didn't stream this morning. And so just, if I say something really stupid here, give me the benefit of the doubt. I'm probably going to be recording this in more segments than normal just in case I cough. Anyway, for this one, because it was the second to last war before season started, as we usually do, we planned out a full clear. And normally, what I tell people there is, you know, don't use expiring items, but do try and finish all your fights, right? Because this is us trying to shake the rust off before season and just generally stay on top of things and get back in the swing of it. Also, maybe testing out some interactions that we didn't take in the off season, because if you're not going for a full clear, sometimes you're not forced into less than ideal matchups. But funnily enough, um, despite the fact that I've spent so much time this offseason testing a lot of different Defiance champions, and I do think that's going to be good, most of this war just ends up being Reed and Killmonger, which are the two I used the most last war. And I'm just very comfortable with them. I can take all kinds of fights with them. It works out well. And so that's what you're seeing here. I've been talking over this fight because I've taken it several times before, and as you can see, the theory is really simple. You don't use the suppression pre-fight because you want him to be gaining bars of power, and you don't worry about stacking the pre-fights because that would require giving him a special 2. And so you just play strike counter with Reed and spam special ones the entire time. The stagger takes care of Mangog's unstoppable and unblockable. That's all there is to it. Very simple fight. So next up we have this Super Skrull, and this should be pretty simple as well, because he doesn't have unstoppable armor anymore, right? And that's most of what made him really dangerous. This one, we are going to use all 3 pre-fights because it doesn't matter how much power he gains, and every debuff we can put on him is going to increase our damage. So you notice there, I actually took an extra parry on block, and that's because I wanted to be sure that I got over a bar of power before running out of any of my strike counters. This is how I tend to play this, be a little bit cautious at the front. And the thing with Reed and strike counter is that eventually the opponent just throws 3 special ones, right? And then strike counter becomes much, much easier to play around because I'll have 50% more combat power from the Careful Study passive because my Reed is Sig 200. I have said before, I think that Reed's signature ability is not necessary to ranking him, but it is quite strong. And this kind of fight is where that comes into play. So right there, that was a little bit less than ideal. I mean, I do take a little bit of brute force damage, but it's okay. It's not that big a deal. We actually do heal when the falter goes on us, so we're going to get some back from that. Again, staying within strike counter, but notice how much more power we're getting here. We're actually getting so much power that I get excited about getting my second bar and throw this despite the fact that the falter is coming back. And I take a combo to the face and a whole bunch of brute force for my troubles. And I lose half my ramp up, which means that I literally accomplished nothing with that special 2. What I should have done is parry a few more times, baited out his special 1, tried not to use up all of my counters, and then either hit into his block or in the middle of his special 1, like right there, triggered the falter. Even though that gives him a protection, it would have just kept me more in control of the fight, and then I could have thrown the special 2 with the falter on cooldown, and we'd be up to 3 ramps here, and I would have probably full health or near it instead of about 60%. So, as good as Reed is for strike counter, I need to make sure that I don't get too excited about it and make a big mistake like that. Because he is Defiance. He turns off the part of the global where they gain the miss passive because you don't have buffs that end. But Defiance champions do not bypass miss abilities within kits, and so I should have played that a little more carefully. And hopefully I have some more awareness next time I take it. So then we have Mojo on Power Snack. I've said before, Defiance makes Mojo significantly simpler in general. Reed can take almost anyone on Power Snack as it is. You put those things together and have Reed, a Defiance character, take Mojo on Power Snack. There's nothing to this. I mean, part of the reason I'm not healing here is because it's off-season, but the other reason is because I know from all of the other fights I've taken here that unless I full-on eat a special or a combo, I should lose less than 5% health. Somewhere in that neighborhood. The evade helps us out there, but it doesn't really matter. We can block that whole special one and nothing will happen. So now we're mostly ramped. We're already reversing his willpower. If we get him down to 50% before we get to our next special 2, we'll almost fully turn off backup recovery. And because of Defiance, it doesn't matter that we're assigning all of his prompts, completing all of his prompts. Plus, Reed being ramped reduces and then reverses the power gain and the regen he gets from completing prompts. So just a really, really easy fight. I'm sorry, power gain. The regen is from buffs expiring, which can't happen because Defiance. So you saw how we actually reversed backup recovery, and then we wait this out. He does go really passive there for some reason. Love how the AI's been doing that. I'm pretty sure he was trying to get me to come in so he could parry me. Not the biggest deal. That would have been bad if we weren't using Defiance, but you're just going to keep hearing me say that. It really simplifies a lot of things. So then we move on to Kitty on Mixmaster, which is a fight I've taken many times with Nimrod, but now Kitty does have the global Mystic Dispersion, right? And so when our buffs end, she is going to gain that Falter passive for a little bit, and if we miss in general, she's going to gain protection passives. So the important thing with Mixmaster is always stick to medium light, medium light, medium light. And this is mostly fine. Right there, I thought she backed up and blocked. That's my mistake. And so I hit into her once, and triggering literally one miss loses me half my health. More than half my health. Yeah, that was pretty intense. And so the way I normally like to play this is she ramps us up to 10 protocol charges plenty quick, but I like to throw the special 1 and then take advantage of the energize and everything else to build back up to the special 2, keeping her prowess fully under control. That didn't happen here because we got hit. Really, really stung. But you can see that that was just something that could have happened without this global, right? Like, she just dashed in at me with 3 prowess. More than 3, right? And so I took a bunch of damage. That could have happened last season. I need to be more careful about it. But the point is that the global barely made that fight harder. It was just one little timer I had to watch. It went on cooldown, and I think the fight was over before it came back. So then we have Apocalypse here. Again, he will go unblockable if we don't remove his prowess, but it's Nimrod, so we remove his prowess immediately, and even though I got hurt pretty bad on the last node, I know I don't need to heal up on this. I've taken this in season before with Nimrod, healed him back up to 100% health, and then finished this fight at 98, 99. So there's no way I'm healing it off season. I would in the real deal, because what if I messed up this dex and then, even with 0 prowess, took a bunch of damage? That would be awful. But here in the off-season, it just proves how safe this fight is for Nimrod, because we use the special 1 first, 1 special 2 does it, down he goes. And I'll just say again on Nimrod, I like using the special 1 first because it tends to mean that you only need a special 1, then a special 2 to finish the fight, instead of 2 special 2s. And because it gives you that energize, the next 2 bars of power you gain usually come quicker too. So it actually is more like you only gaining 2 bars of power over the course of the fight rather than having to gain 4. You do more damage. I think it's the way he is supposed to be played. Even if you're using power backs, even if you get power back from the special 2, I think that it is normally the correct decision to throw the special 1 first. Okay, so now we have Longshot on this Hard Knock Life node, and this is just going to be a long, boring fight. Reed can't gain buffs, and because of that, we don't have to worry about Mystic Dispersion, either the Mastery or the Global, but because we can't really stun Longshot here, we also can't keep his Karma under control, and so we're just going to have to be super careful. Because if a special 1 hits us while he has Pure of Heart, those instant bleeds will probably take us down from where we are to 0. If we push him to a special 2 while he has Pure of Heart, then that will put that Incinerate Fate seal on us. And if we have bad Karma on us, even though we can't gain buffs, those will be converted into those passive Incinerates, and that's just a death sentence, right? So we're going to be very, very slow and careful here with Longshot and just keep baiting things out. I honestly don't know why I dex that much, because he wasn't at a bar of power right there. It makes sense to dex always baiting the special 1 for all of the reasons I just went over. But, yeah, and see there I hit into his block because I'm realizing, hold on, I need to be doing a slightly better job of controlling spacing. So remember that Longshot gains part of the power you gain when you have bad Karma on you. And so that's why it looks like his power gain is accelerating here, because it is. Us putting the Careful Study passive on him increases our combat power rate, but then he is stealing some of that. And so that is making this fight a little more dangerous in that respect. But I still think a Defiance champion is the way to go here. Immortal Abomination probably would have been a little bit better than this, but the fact that Reed is also reducing his special damage is kind of nice, just as a safety net. He has that evade built in. Unfortunately, he does not have any kind of stun immunity, so when you make a mistake there and get fooled by the AI and parried, that happens. So that was unfortunate, but I do think that something like this is the best way to go. You could also potentially try, like, I could see Hawkeye being great for this because you have that power control, but because of everything we just talked about with bad Karma, Doom is serviceable here, but not excellent. That's just a problem that Doom has in general with Longshot, is that if you're having trouble keeping bad Karma off yourself, then when you try and use your power control, because it is power steal, Longshot will have his power stolen and will then immediately gain a bunch of power because you gained power from stealing his power. It's a weird interaction, but it's just something to be aware of. And then I wouldn't use Chavez or Wasp there, despite the fact that they can stun him, because they are not Defiance, and then you would actually have to deal with the Global. So I think Reed is definitely one of the best, and while that fight was long, even for me, and people like making jokes about that, it was very safe, and I would send it again. So then we have Killmonger against Void. We also had a Mole Man on the other side, and I think in season, I would have just insisted or asked the Mole Man to take it, because while in general Killmonger and Mole Man can do a lot of the same things, Void is one of those fights where I do prefer Mole Man, and that's because if something goes wrong, then you just have that built-in reliable Purify. Now Killmonger is going to be okay because he is a tempo champion, and so you tend to be able to have an easy time hitting that next 10 on the counter, just because he's always able to land hits. Counterpunch helps a lot here. The fact that he gains power from debuffs helps. But if you do something stupid, like I just did, and run into a special 1, and get your combo reset, and then get an extra debuff on you and start taking a bunch of damage, This is damage that Mole Man would not have taken. And so that's just unnecessary. But we do stop the bleeding before we lose too much health, and like this fight is obviously going to close out from here, right? And in season, I would of course be boosted, and so it's that much better, but yeah. I would have had the Mole Man do it. Killmonger works absolutely fine if you can't get a Mole Man over here. I really like Elsa for that fight as well. Plenty of options, don't have to worry about any global or anything. So then we move on to this Doctor Strange. So Spider-Man 2099 was actually not banned this war, and I probably would normally send him here given the choice. But I said at the start of this, like, hey everybody, I'm going to plan this war as though Miguel were banned, just so that we have that practice. And so that's why I'm here with Reed. And Reed is serviceable here, but because of the enhanced power gain and the way that Petrify works additively, Doctor Strange has 300% of his normal power gain. Petrify reduces it by 40%, so sadly, that's not reducing the 300 by 120, it's reducing the 300 by 40. So he still has 260% of his normal power gain. And that's why he gets so many specials. If this were in season, I would have dueled a lot more for that special 2 dex so that I could really nail it. But the other thing you're seeing here is that we're not taking that much damage from it because of the careful study debuffs, because of Reed's natural energy and physical resistance, and just because this is a rank 4. So we're totally fine. Also, his evade chance goes up every time the opponent attempts an unblockable attack, and so we're that much better for that. This definitely works. I would practice to give myself a little bit more wiggle room and just get hit a little bit less often, hopefully in season, but it's reassuring that coming into this fight not fully healed, eating, what was that, parts of 3 special 2s, or I guess we only ate parts of 2 of them and then evaded the 3rd one, it still felt pretty safe. That does make me feel a lot better about sending that in season. So then I just play some pre-fights on the boss, and we're good to go. I don't regret any of the testing that I did in the off-season. I think we will be sending a fair amount of Captain America in particular, definitely some She-Hulk, and hopefully some Hawkeye and a couple of the others. But I'm also not surprised that when I actually had to do a full clear, Reed and Killmonger came back because they are just that reliable for me, as is Nimrod. So this was a lot of fun for me. Hope y'all also enjoyed this. I did have a few more videos I was hoping to get out this weekend, but, you know, catching a major infectious disease does have a way of slowing things down a little bit, so hopefully I'm back to normal soon. And I will have one more off-season war for y'all. I think, again, another full clear. I think it's a good one. And then the season will start. So I'll see y'all soon. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and take care.